So Zach and I got together to look way back to 1996's disaster feature Twister, which was a big hit at the time. I actually saw this in the theater, and I remember at the time there was so much hype for this movie. It was up there with this is when things like The Rock and Independence Day, Jurassic Park, like this era of exciting disaster films. And so we meet Helen Hunt, plays Dr. Joe Harding, who's part of this group of storm chasers who are trying to collect data, trying to create early warning systems. And they're a ragtag group. They got everything they have is like DIY. They have all these kind of old equipment and trucks. And then they're all crazy about storms. Philip Seymour Hoffman's in there with some classic lines, super over the top. Bill Paxton is also the lead, and he's someone who was a storm chaser, but he's like, calm down. He's gonna get a job as a regular boring weatherman, and so while they're out chasing these storms, he's trying to get Helen Hunt's character to sign his divorce paper so they can be finalized and move on, and he can get married to the wonderful Melissa. So it's this wonderful Hollywood plot where of course like they rekindle their flame. He remembers what he really liked, because he's like this mythical storm chaser that he's like the tornado whisperer. There's a great scene where he goes outside, like sniffs the wind, grabs the dirt, feels how wet it is, and drops it in the wind. Meanwhile, we also have Carrie Elwes is like the big bad corporate sleaze who are also chasing tornadoes, and they have these sleek black vans and black SUVs, and they're clearly better funded, have higher tech, and but they don't have the instincts that the kind of DIY guys do. And so it's a big disaster film. They're trying to get in front of these tornadoes, drop a gadget in front of it so they can get more readings, but then they got to get out, so they got to put themselves in harm's way, get out, and they got to do this a couple of times because, of course, it doesn't work the first time. A lot of great practical filmmaking, also the start of some digital shots as well. This had great effects at the time. Most of them stand up, some of them don't quite. But that's our setup. That's our movie. Zach, what'd you think?
So first off, initial impressions. Film came out in 96. I'm watching it in 2024. I can say confidently Twister holds up and is a lot of fun. And for people who think that maybe it's like lacking in plot structure or antagonist, I think you're nuts, dude. Like, I think this movie would have been fun to watch in the theater. I'm bummed I didn't get to see it when Andy did. I totally get why it's got a bit of a cult kind of classic status. Like, I don't see people putting it in their top 10 list, but Twister is really unique. And I think what's funny is, as unique as it is from other features, it also has a stunning amount in common with Jurassic Park. And I'm sure people have compared it in the past, right? It's easy, but there's more to, just kind of seeming like Jurassic Park that meets the eye. One, we're fighting big forces of nature. Jurassic Park fights dinosaurs. We're fighting storms. Two, we don't really have a big antagonist, right? The antagonist is kind of the force of nature. There's no like one real person or like particular entity that is driving the problem or has specific malice towards any of our one characters. Dinosaurs don't know who they're eating. The Twister doesn't care what it's eating. It's written by Michael Crichton and Anne-Marie Martin, who both wrote Jurassic Park. It's produced by Amblin Entertainment. They did that in 93, Steven Spielberg's shop. They did Twister in 96. It's even produced by Kathleen Kennedy. Both films, Jurassic Park and this were, and notably Kathleen Kennedy has gone on to do Star Wars, right? She heads up that whole thing for Disney. A lot of great talent behind this, not just in the writing and production. Jan de Bont, the director, formerly directed Speed. After this movie, he did Speed 2 Cruise Control. He did like one movie in 99, and he never did anything else. He's just been a cinematographer. Wow. He has not done any more directing. And from what I hear, Twister was a bear to shoot. Incredible cast watching Twister. I remember Andy telling me it's like a who's who. There's tons of great people in this movie. Bill Paxton, Helen Hunt, Carrie Elwes, Jamie Gertz, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Alan Ruck. Like, it just keeps going. Todd Field, director of Tar, is in this movie. Like, it's nuts. and is in the whole film. Like, he keeps showing up. It's crazy. Like lots of little character actors and bit parts. Oh, that guy saw in Law and Order. Not to mention a lot of fun sequences with big effects that are blended pretty good for audiences. Like as somebody who watches a lot of movies and enjoys seeing how movies are made, Twister is as much fun to kind of pick apart, I think, as it is to enjoy the first time through. So I'm excited we're talking about it. And I'm glad I watched it before Twisters next week. Where do you want to jump into the larger conversation?
Man, there's so many places, but I think just kind of the tone of it's classic filmmaking up there with like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jaws, Jurassic Park is what we said, and it's the kind of thing where like everything is made crystal clear for the audience. Like the bad guys are all in black and they're jerks, and the good guys are ragtag kind of outsiders. They're so excited about, like, they sell being tornado chasers so well. It gets a little sciencey, but it never confuses you. They constantly remind you, hey, we got to get this gadget in front of the tornado. Got to get the gadget in front of the tornado. It didn't work. We got to try it again. And so you know what's going on. There's all these flashes to like technology. You see screens, science, radar, radios, and it's like you don't really understand any of it. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but you just know, oh, technology, they're reading this, and it's sold so well, and you're just with it the whole time. We have good dialogue, we have fun characters. Poor poor Jamie Gertz, who plays Melissa, who's like the new wife, who's like the uptight woman from the city who's wearing a white suit out to the country, who's kind of unfairly maligned in this movie. She didn't do anything wrong. She's just gets put in this suicide mission. There's this great aunt character that they all stop by. Oh, let's go over to Aunt May's for steak and eggs, and we all have a family dinner. And then she comes up later in the film, and the disaster stuff works so well. That's what it really is. It's like a building coming down or an earthquake, that kind of movie where there's just disaster, destruction coming in ways that we hadn't seen up to that point. It's so effective filmmaking.
Yeah, groundbreaking special effects in Twister, not only in like the physical presentation and the blending of like shots in Oklahoma with like a sky in the background, but it's just in CGI all over. Like placing what looks like a very real tornado behind our audiences is a real challenge in 96, behind our cast, in 96. And they do it pretty good. You see the seams now, I think, more than you probably did then. But as somebody who watched a lot of movies, I was kind of looking for them, admittedly. And while not everything holds up, there's a particular shot just after the opening scene where young Joe is like pulled into the storm cellar with their father and mother in Oklahoma, and they're like, get the door, oh, the Twister's coming. It's great. It's a lot of fun. There's like a Doppler radar satellite out above Earth, and it looks god awful, but it takes you right back to 96. You know what I mean? Like, it's the best we could do. And from there, Andy's right, it's a whole lot of science stuff on screens. You don't need to know about that junk. They're going to throw some terms at you like, it's a sidewinder and it's a barn burner, but that's all flavor text. Like, what matters is Bill and Joe's relationship with the tornadoes, and then secondly, their relationship with each other, and then thirdly, Bill's relationship with Melissa, which is hilariously wrote in the background. Poor Jamie Gertz gets pulled through this whole movie. She does nothing wrong. Really, like Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt arguably do more wrong than she does. They're putting people in danger. They're putting their lives in danger. They're not listening to what people are telling them to do because they've got tornado intuition. They can just feel when the thing is going to turn left, or they can look at the scoop on top of the crest and know that it's going to turn right into the bad guys. And that all makes for like a really fun, lightweight script, I think, that gets you to enjoy the film with our experts and put our cast in danger while also having enough agency to know what to do next, especially regarding their Dorothy experiment, right? Because that's the whole thing. They've got these pods named Dorothy that are going to have these little like sensors fly up into the tornado and give them tornado data and help them detect tornadoes in the future just a few minutes before they could previous. And that'll give them the ability to save lives all over the world. They really make an effort to point out that that's important. which is, appreciated. It's kind of the primary conflict, I suppose, in the movie, right? And we've got a big cast of goofy goofballs to run around with them, most of which I'm surprised make it to the end of the movie. I really figured with like a crew of 10 dudes that some of them were going to get iced by a tornado, but no, it's a family feature first, PG-13.
Yeah, it's an incredible cast, and yeah, you would think that they'd be picked off one by one, or that only half are going to survive, but pretty much everyone makes it through. I think Aunt May has the worst injury with like a bump on the head. I think one of the things that this movie did so well, especially at the time, was blend practical and digital effects. You would have, of course, the big tornado effects done by computer, but then you had everything else: the wind, the rain, the debris. There's great scenes where like boards are being pulled out of like nails being pulled out of the wood because the wind is just so strong, and they do it all practical. I'm sure they had to build contraptions to do it all. There's a part they all have to hide away in this garage, and the car gets thrown through the window, and it's again, they take a lot of thriller events from Jurassic Park and kind of recreate them here. Of course, the famous like T-Rex stomp where you see the glass, the water shaking. Instead, we have these wind chimes that slowly start rotating, slowly start picking up, and they'll get faster and faster. And they do that gag several times in the movie, so it keeps it a lot of fun. But I think the blend of practical and digital effects is part of what made this work so well.
Yeah, like this is Amblin in their prime, right? This is when they had like just come off Jurassic Park. They just finished, they'd wrapped Back to the Future about a decade prior. Like this is when Steven Spielberg is hitting his high water marks. And Jan de Bont is hot off the set of Speed, and he's got Michael Crichton in the writer's room, and he's got Kathleen Kennedy in production. Like we can do anything. So they go out to Oklahoma and they start filming this thing where they discover there's a lot of actual tornadoes in Oklahoma where they shot this movie. Apparently that was a big part of trying to get the production together, was dodging legitimate tornadoes. And hey guys, we got to wrap this shoot up. We got to get inside. Those clouds aren't kidding around. Additionally, like throwing like ice chunks and hail and debris on our actors is brutal. And about halfway through this movie, I leaned over on the couch, like, Andy, like what are they throwing on these guys? That looks really real. That looks like it really hurts. And reportedly it does. There's a lot of making of featurettes available on YouTube since the 4K for Twister just came out. You can take a look at it. Like it seems like it was a miserable shoot. It seems like it was rough, and it's a road movie. Like in its best moments, it reminds me of like an old Mad Max feature. We're on the road pretty much the whole time. I don't know how these people get paid. Andy says it's through grants. I couldn't figure out how any of them have real jobs, but that doesn't matter because they're not out here for capitalism, all right? They're here to chase tornadoes. That is what we're doing. We're going to the suck zone, all right? We're going to do it together. And Twister is like a uniquely invite into the tent sort of feature. We get the safety and comfort of our American theater. We get to hang out and eat our popcorn while our cast members are thrown about the place by insane forces of nature that they themselves can only barely comprehend. It is a spectacle sort of feature, and it is as much fun from our very first opening scene to when we first see tornadoes and these like godlike ahs are like coming out of the soundtrack, or even the explosive ending where they're like barely keeping it together. Like it's a lot of fun, and it just keeps moving. I was something I was really impressed with. Like, boy, like this movie just keeps going for an hour 53. It almost feels like it's shorter.
Yeah, it just moves constantly, and you're having so much fun with like the action, the characters, the drama, the dialogue, that it just again, yeah, it never feels slow. Yeah, I think they get paid by grants, not real certain. They're all listed as doctor this and doctor that, so that seems to be what they're doing. But yeah, it's so much fun. And again, we have our big drama with the tornadoes. We have our other antagonists and Carrie Elwes's character doing this really like putting on this thick Southern drawl that he's struggling. Like it's brutal. So kind of overdone, but it's real funny. Most people probably won't notice. And there's also Helen Hunt's character has had a family tragedy kind of at the beginning of the movie, and this is haunting her throughout the whole thing. That there's parts where people recognize, well, what's the biggest tornado you've seen, and everyone goes silent because they're like, well, none of us have seen one that big, but someone here who lost a close family member has it. It's just it takes it so
It
seriously, and it's
rocks.
sold so well. And yeah, and there's great moments that if you watch the original trailer, there's a moment where Philip Seymour Hoffman, he's running, he's like, "We gotta go, it's coming," and Bill Paxton, serious as day, says, "No, it's already here." Like, oh, it's beautiful filmmaking. Like,
Yeah. God, there's also this incredible scene right in the middle of like a drive-in theater getting rocked by a tornado and the run on The Shining.
classic.
It's so great. Yeah, it's the shot when Jack's knocking the door down, Wendy's screaming on the other side of it, and the tornado just picks up the whole damn screen and takes it away. Like, such a good time. Delightfully fun. Like a great summer blockbuster. Just to kind of curb this for next week and kind of wrap up our thoughts, Andy, what in here do you, I guess, hope or expect to see in Twisters? Where do you think Twisters can improve on what's here? Because Twisters, as far as I can tell from the trailer, seems to be gender swapping it, right? Seems like our lead, Daisy Edgar Jones, right, is she's kind of the corporate stooge, and Glenn Powell's our male maverick. What do you think?
I think it's got to capture the vibes, which is largely what makes Twister so good. It's a really fun movie with all the characters. You have kind of these big archetypes, which are a lot of fun. It's not too complicated. I think if anything, the big improvement will be special effects. You'll be able to make everything look much more real and authentic. But again, you have to blend the practical with the digital. So I think that'll be the challenge, is making sure that part, that excitement is still there. And if you have fun characters, and I mean, Glenn Powell's just killing it these days. If you have good characters and good chemistry, I think it's going to be a hit.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching Twisters. I'm glad we watched this one. I'm very pleased to say it holds up good. I like it. I've been surprised, like looking for people with hot takes on Twister since the new one's coming out, and people saying that this one's not a good time or is poor. Like, I don't know, man. I think it's aged well. There was probably a decade ago, I probably would have said, I don't know, it's a little clunky, but like it's like fine wine. It's vintage, right? Vintage 96 in Twister. So with that, Andy, would you recommend Twister?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a classic of the 90s, of the disaster genre, of Amblin Entertainment. It's so much fun from start to finish. You got a good emotional center. You have these kind of wild and crazy storm chasers. You got this romance going on in the background, a romance with nature as well. Big special effects, a lot of fun. It flies by. Highly recommend, especially before seeing this new one.
Yeah, I think Twister rocks, dude. Aged great. I mean that. Like, even if you're like spooked about bad weather, I know a couple people in my life are, I'd say you could still go back and revisit it because it's aged just enough where, of course, you know, it's not legit, but you can enjoy it in that way. Like, it's got a newfound something to it that I think it didn't have then, combined with stellar cast, fun writing, great production. Twister, man, it's a good time. It's a good time at the movies. Would recommend. I'd love to catch it on a big screen sometime. It's a shame I haven't seen any retro screenings since Twister's coming out. Maybe someday. But with that, we got to move on. We got one more film to talk about. Normally it's 2 on the show. This week it's 3, and this is a mini review of, Oz Perkins' last feature. Well, it's 2015 feature, I guess, that Andy saw and I did not, so I will get out of his way. Andy, please, whenever you're ready, take it away.
The Black Coat's Daughter.